right, good morning. Good morning to everyone. Happy Sabbath and welcome to another Sabbath study. I invite you to kneel with me as we seek the Lord in prayer. Loving God in heaven, I want to thank you again for another Sabbath day. Thank you for this time for fellowship. We invite your presence in our midst, your angel. And we ask that your Holy Spirit may lead and direct our thoughts and our minds, supposed to gain a better understanding of the message for this time. So we may be uplifted and be drawn together more closer as we go through these last days. So let your will be done in our midst today. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Can you see my screen? I'm not seeing it.
We see your screen, Lucas. I mean, we're seeing it.
Oh, I'm not seeing it today. It's strange.
Oh,
Okay.
have you got two devices on the go?
No.
No? Okay. No, we're seeing it with you, or not your screen, pardon me. We're seeing your whiteboard with you. Yes, sorry about that.
But you see me.
We see you. Yes.
Okay. Something. Well, I wanted to see because I will refer back to the board as I go through. So, is it something on my end or your end?
So you're trying to share screen like from your device?
No, I just can't see. Usually, I would see myself on the screen, but today I can't.
Okay, let me see if, let's see, in view, see, I don't want to do multi-speaker. Right now it's set for the speaker to be,
Okay.
okay.
All right. Well,
Lucas, forgive me. Let me try. I don't think I didn't spotlight. Let me see if I can spotlight you as
probably it's not. Yeah.
presenter, and then that maybe would show you up to yourself as well.
Yeah. Thanks.
Did that do it? Good. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Again, welcome to everyone to this morning's study. The last time we were together, I started presenting or reviewing the topic of the American Civil War. And so today I would like to continue on that topic where I left off. But before I get into it again, I just want to read a quotation, very familiar one, but very applicable to this time. Uh, it's taken from Signs of the Time, March 22, 1910. Says, when the Protestant churches shall unite with the secular power to sustain a false religion, for opposing which their ancestors endured the fiercest persecution, when the state shall use its power to enforce the decrees and sustain the institutions of the church, then will Protestant America have formed an image to the papacy. And there will be a national apostasy which will end only in national ruin. Right? So, with that in mind, I want to go to a fun fact that I recently picked up from going over a couple of LHF studies in the past. And we know that the name represents character, right? So the name America comes from an Italian man named Amerigo Vespucci. Vespucci. And the name Amerigo means work ruler or home ruler. Okay, and so this Amerigo Vespucci, he was an explorer and a merchant. He was first a banker who turned into an explorer. Therefore, the name America means the ruling merchant power. All right, so and we can see that connection. We see this connection when in Bible prophecy, the Bible or Bible prophecy represents America as the ship of Tarshish. Okay, and so this ship of Tarshish is the primary merchant ship out of 10. And so this is why we see, in this time of the Seventh Kingdom, where Donald Trump being the president or the king, in quotes, of this kingdom, is flexing his economic muscle by trade war threats, tariffs, sanctions, and so forth, that he has started with Canada and Mexico, China, EU, and even Britain. Okay, so that's a very useful information there that I appreciated. Okay, so the last time we stopped off, I was at the point where I was at this point between 1948 and 1954. And just for review's sake, we're looking at the American Civil War that literally occurred in 1861 to 1865, 1863 being the midpoint. And Herodes, in her studies, was able to use that event, that history, to show us how history repeats as the Seventh Kingdom makes its way to the top. All right, and so with more light being opened up recently through the studies of Elder Terry and even Elder Parmenter, we can see even more clearer how the Seventh Kingdom followed from the fifth, or this dragon power. Let me be more specific. This dragon power followed from the sea onto the land into this new kingdom, and coexisted with the sixth. At the same time, while coexisting, still seeking to take power again. And so the first time we saw its activity manifest is at the first Civil War, or at the literal Civil War that occurred in the early 1860s. Okay, and so And so what we could draw from this and combine with the study, with the light that has come, we can see that every time the seventh head or this dragon power seeks to rise up and take control, there's a civil war or some kind of national crisis that comes about. Okay, and this is why the tests use these numerical symbols that is associated with the 2520, 151 and 126 and the 63. And with that, she was able to show us how history repeats until the seventh kingdom or this dragon power fully takes control, at which time we're now in. All right, so what we see is that it's fueled by trying to combine again church and state. All right, so that's the whole motive behind this dragon power, and so we need to, as we look at this study, we want to find answers to certain questions, and we know that state power can exist by itself. It can rule on its own. So a question that Elortes gave asks, why does the state benefits from uniting with the church? Why would the state want the church involved if the state can rule as a dictator on its own? Who would like to give a go to that question? Again, let me repeat the question. Why does the state benefits from uniting with the church? Why would the state want the church to be involved if the state can by itself rule as a dictator on its own? Can anybody give a thought or contribution to this question before I go on and bring the answer?
Is it
Yes.
Go ahead, Debbie.
No. Go ahead.
Is it because they are appealing to the people?
Because they're what you said?
Appealing to the people.
Because they're appealing to the people? Okay.
I was going to
That would
just,
sound good. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to add in that we could go to the King of the South model, perhaps, and how Stalin and certainly Putin in our day came to realize that state dominance alone wasn't really fully going to succeed, but by combining state with culture, with church, I mean, Russian Orthodox Church, they, much like Maka said, they gain the people. It brings in a different element than just the state alone as a dictator. So by having state over church, where the state is pulling all the strings, but it brings the people along. It incorporates culture, and therefore it is more successful.
Right. Yep. So those two answers were very good answers. Yes, and so that's the whole reason behind it. It's so that the king or president in this case can acclaim his appointment directly from God, the testament to explain, and confirmed by the people, the Christian nation, as you call it. So the purpose is so that he could say that, God has appointed him and the people want him there. He can do whatever he deserves because he claims to have a divine right to be king. No one should resist his power, and in so doing, he becomes a despot and rule absolutely. The more terrible the king is, the more people will fear to rebel. All right, and that's so true. We're seeing it right before our eyes on the news, and those of us in the movement who live in America, they're seeing it live and direct. Okay, so even the Republican Party and so far even Chuck Schumer and Democrats now they're even afraid to stand up against Donald Trump. They fear to rebel against him. Okay, so the purpose of the U.S. Constitution was based on separation of church and state. And the purpose of that was to protect the minority who were not Protestant Christians, or religious, or white, or powerful, or wealthy. The Constitution serves another purpose to assure that the state power is elected by the people and is not a king. He is not divinely appointed and is accountable to the people. The state power should be dependent on the people. That's the way how the American Constitution was intended to function. But again, as I mentioned earlier, and we now understand that the seventh head coexisted all this time with the sixth kingdom, with the lamb-like beast, and from time to time it tried to take power, to rise again and establish itself as the sole ruler of the nation. And so in 2005, we saw a case of this where George Bush Jr., the son of Senior Bush, remember when he invaded Iraq? What was his excuse for invading Iraq? What was his what did he say gave him authority to invade Iraq after he was pushed again?
He said that they had weapons of mass destruction.
Okay, but we know that was a lie, and it's been proven to be a lie. So yes, he did say that, but what else was really behind it? What motivated him to go that far, based on this ideology that the seventh head brings with it?
That the United States was ruling unilaterally as the policeman of the world.
Okay. Yes, so besides that, personally, as I just read, because this German power always claims to be divinely appointed and being associated with the Republican Party, always supporting this power. George Bush said that he invaded Iraq because God told him so. All right. So that's what his bottom line was at the end, that he did it because he was told to do so by God. The problem that has arisen in the United States since 2016 is that the people see Donald Trump as King Cyrus, divinely appointed. Therefore, they believe that he can do no wrong because God is behind him. They believe to attack him is to attack God. To try to remove him will bring national ruin. But we just read from the spirit of prophecy that it's the opposite that brings national ruin. Okay, so there is where it's important to have the truth set straight, and praise God for the light that He has given to us during this time of during the existence of this movement, as we all grow together. Okay, so again in the 1950s, where I left off, the purpose of that time period, where the midpoint for that time was 1951, is where the purpose of that test pointing out that period is that during that time they doubled down on the US being a Christian nation. So that was like the foundation of their whole claim that America was called to be a Christian nation by God and to be ruled by the union of church and state. Okay, so in 1948, the phrase under God was reinforced by Knights of Columbus. And I did find out who they are. Knights of Columbus, they are an international fraternal benefit society of Roman Catholic men. Okay, and they do social outreach and help families and people and so forth, right? The community. But they are associated with the Roman Catholic Church, and they are fraternity. And so we could see why they were the one who mainly supported and disseminated this under God phrase to be recognized and accepted nationwide. And then in 1951, there was the Brown versus Board of Education court case. Again, it all stemmed from back in the 1890s, where they came up with another idea where they say we're separate, but equal. Okay, so we know the result of the Civil War. The whole purpose of it was because these Christian southern states, they believed that they had the right to own humans as property and slaves, and to force them to labor for them for profit. And we know that God, during this time, was calling America to the awareness, or the entire world really, to the awareness that He was not in favor of slavery, and that it's a serious human rights violation. It's a sin. But they resisted, and the war was very brutal and extremely costly. So again, another thing that as I went over this study to prepare for today, I found out that during the time of the Civil War, the country America, USA was, they spent a lot of money. They had high inflation. The the southern economy was terrible. GDP was very low, opposed to the northern states whose GDP was high because they were they had better machinery, industrial machinery, in, and that contributed to them being able to produce more, double the amount that the South was producing, even though the South had so many slaves. Okay, so we can see the comparison in our time, where every time this seventh head, what I'm saying is that every time this dragon power seeks to establish itself, it brings about a financial crisis and economic instability. As we're seeing today in the stock market and again in America, with inflation and high cost of living. Okay, so so going back to 1851, Brown versus Board of Education, it had to do with Black people having the right to attend schools and universities without any discrimination or segregation. And they won the case in 1954. And praise to God too, that segregation had begun in 1890, was coming to its end as well, Jim Crow laws and so forth. And this was all because of the civil rights movement that arose during that time. Also, in 1954, Under God was officially signed into law as part of the USA Pledge of Allegiance, and this was done by President Eisenhower. Okay, and then, so in 1956 also, In God We Trust became law to be introduced on all the currency. First, remember, it was just on the coins and the newly minted coins. But now it in 56, when it was to be included on our currency, and was also made the new national motto. Okay, so that's what happened in the 1950s. And then, so again, the civil rights, so movements came up that quelled this dragon power from rising up again during this time period. And these movements we know to be a civil rights movement that started in 1954, last to 1968. Also, feminism came about or continued to rise in 1960s and lasted until 1980s. And then the Stonewall riot that brought about the rights movement. They were able to make strides in bringing about equality among different people. Yeah. So, but we know that the seventh head did not give up. Dragon power keep on moving towards a point where it can establish itself as the sole power and ruler of the USA nation. Okay, so in 1957, the US government had to send the National Guard to see to it that Black children were integrated in schools. So that's how bad it was, even though the court case, Brown versus Board of Education, those who sued won the case. It was not so easy making the transition. There was a whole lot of resistance and hatred still. Okay, and it's around this time that we know that these figures such as Jerry Falwell, Bob Jones, and Paul Weyrich began their move as well. Their resistance against this progress that was taking place during this time. So Bob Jones' argument was that there is biblical approval for segregation. So again, they all always point to the Bible and say, the Bible says so, God is in favor. Jerry Falwell's argument was that it was a violation of his personal religious conviction to force him to accept integration in his university. Okay, so all this all this fight brought us to the time period of the 10 years of the moral majority that we are familiar with through the studies of this. And during this time was when they mobilized against these three movements. Okay, so this is the Christian right. They mobilized against civil rights to bring an end to it. They mobilized against feminism and against gay rights. Okay, so and then in 2005, the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation was created by Leah Carawan, and it works within the House of Representatives to promote laws that preserve American Christian values and beliefs that the democracy only functions if it is morally, if there is morality in the nation. So this is how they began to make the argument and try to convince the American people, as Debbie and Marka helped us understand, to believe this theory, is that democracy only functions if there is morality in the nation. They also claim that America was created with a moral code, which is the Ten Commandments. Leah Carawan said in 2014, the separation of church and state is a liberal plan to ruin America. It will bring about the death of our nation. If the Church of God and Christians do not engage in politics and see their responsibility, other people will fill that void. They will find the void, they will fill the void with leave if Protestants don't become active. The United States, from its beginning to now, reflects Jewish Christian values because Christians have held to it and protected it. So we all know this is all a lie, and only those who do not go back to history and study history, especially the history of America, the American people who don't spend time understanding their own history would buy into these lies. All right, and so this is how they build their support to be able to get the populace to bring them into power. So this is the activity now that you see started in the time of the end from 1989. onward, all the way up to 2014. Okay. And then came about Donald Trump. And there was a project that was designed called Project Blitz, that was designed also to convince the American population to support this dragon power in the name of Christianity and the will of God. And this Project Bliss had 3 steps, a 3-step plan. And under the first administration of Donald Trump, they pushed hard to implement these 3-step plans. And so these are the plans. First one was to spread in God we trust throughout the entire USA by putting it in all public buildings, put it, and also on police car license plates and so forth. To require school boards to teach certain founding documents that show that the USA is Christian from the beginning. To uphold a national heritage, which is a twist, right? It's not true. To bring about Bible teaching in schools. Second, to proclaim a day of religious freedom, promotion of the Bible in American history. And then they had the Mississippi Missile, which was to cause the government to make a statement on foreign policies favoring sexual relationships only between married heterosexual couples. Okay, so we could see where some of these steps have now been implemented in the second administration by Donald Trump. They want a resolution that says that the state support and encourage marriage between a man and a woman. They want a resolution that says that people should maintain the gender of their birth. And we know this, on day one, he made that clear in at his inauguration. As he began, to pass all these executive orders, this was one of them. And just, I think it was this week or the week before, I heard on the news that people who live in Europe and different parts of the world who are transgender, if they want to visit the USA, they need to get in touch with the American agency who is in charge of the visa and so forth. And they need to identify themselves as either male or female in order to enter the country. That's how bad it is now. All right, and this came all the way back from 2016 and now has taken its root. Okay, they want a resolution stating that adoption showing only they want a resolution stating that adoption should only be carried out by heterosexual couples, protecting their religious freedom to discriminate as well. So again, this is another thing that we see that has taken place now, that those supporters of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump, they say this is Trump's America now. Okay, and so they feel like they have a right and the freedom to discriminate against other nations, against migrants, and against those who are not in support of their ideology. So it has been creating different crimes and violence against people by this project that's being put in place. So back then, the project didn't have good success. It was exposed quickly, and it had to, kind of shut down. And so now in this new administration, we know that they devised another project called Project 2025, and Tabo was kind enough to go over it in good details with us. And this project also, the purpose of it was to establish Donald Trump as someone who was fighting for the civil rights of the people. That's their claim, right? That the Democrats and the left, they want to destroy the nation. They're godless. They're evil. They're fascists, and claiming that the Republican or the right are the good ones. So this project list was drafted. Russell Vogt, who now is part of the Trump administration, he was the architect of Project 2025. Now he's confirmed as Donald Trump's director of budget. He wrote in 2022, "We are living in a post-constitutional time." In a seminal essay which argued that the left has corrupted the nation's law and institutions. His view is that the left started it first, so the right has the right to do the same. So you see what he's saying? He's saying that it's the left, if it is the left or the Democrats who brought about a post-constitutional time, meaning that they're not following the Constitution anymore. So his argument is that if they could do it, then we can continue it or do the same. In a speech in 2023, he said, "We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. We want that when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma." So we see that has been fulfilled to Doge, led by Elon Musk. The thousands upon thousands of federal workers who have been fired and whose income has shut down, their funding has shut down. Agencies who are doing a good job in keeping the government and also helping other nations, they have been attacked by Doge in the name of efficiency. Okay, so we see that even though Donald Trump denied that he has anything to do with Project 2025, we are now seeing that it was all a lie. So in 2018 to to 2020, or at the ending of Donald Trump's first administration, this same Russell Vogt, he was the deputy budget director at that time. And it was at that time they tested this plan by withholding $4 million arms aid to Ukraine. Remember that, where the quid pro quo occurred? Well, and Trump forced the arms sale, they froze the arms sale so Trump could have attempted his corrupt bargain to get information on Hunter and Joe Biden. This is how they intended to seize power. And between that time, Vogt posted on X, making impoundment great again. So this is all their plan that has been in the making for some years now, and now they have the power to implement or to execute these projects that they so craftily designed. Okay, so they say now that we're living in Trump's America, and they say that America is the world's dominant superpower, and white Christian males sit at the top of the national food chain, at the nation's food chain. That's the right and proper hierarchy, and it's under threat. So again, remember I last time I showed, the test showed us that every time this dragon power raises up its head, what it does, it uses fear, just fear in the hearts of people, of the citizens of the country, in order to establish itself or to succeed. So again, they're saying that they need to get up and fight for America, because those who should be in power, or who should be the rulers of the nation, or reap the benefit of the prosperity of the nation, are under threat. The nation's identity as the glorious land, as a peculiar set of people, is under threat. A hierarchy makes that peculiar. So this is where I showed this concept that they have, or this claim, where they believe that USA should rule the world. All right, and that's what we know to be the New World Order, or the unilateral power. And then within USA, ruling the world, the people who should rule America, or the USA, should be white, male, Christian. Okay, so that's the criteria. If anyone is not white, male, Christian, and does not support their ideology, then they, according to this dragon power, has no right to be in the country, or to benefit from the prosperity of the country. So let's explain that it's more than just pushing for a combination of church and state. The rulers must be white males. Studies show that the beliefs of the cultural change that has occurred in America has brought about the rise of Donald Trump, and that is the feeling of being threatened. So this is how he won in 2016, and this is how we know he won 2024, using this fear tactic, fear mongering. that the social order or superior group, where superior groups dominate inferior groups, is being threatened, and how it has been threatened by the minorities. So again, this helps us understand why such a crackdown has taken place on deportation of migrants, that where they are really committing crimes, kidnapping people and sending them to prison, not giving information of where they are, of their location, and even to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and now recently we just heard about them being sent to El Salvador. All these things are what they are executing, trying to say that these people are a threat to their civil rights or to their well-being. Even women are afraid of the breaking down of their social order. What they want is a preservation of their social order. They want it to remain white, male, and Christian. This is why their mobilization began when Obama became president. Donald Trump became good at feeding people's fear about the breaking down of their social order through his social media posts and his political rallies and campaigns. Sexism and racism are inseparable in their propaganda, or sexism, and racism are inseparable in their propagation of this fear. Okay, so what we see is that the first time, between the period of 2014 to 2019, in 2016, Donald Trump being elected president of the United States, he started this MAGA movement, and his push was against Black Lives Matter. Okay, again, stirring up this fear in the hearts of the American people that that equality among races is a threat to their social order, right? So he was not in favor of Black Lives Matter. He pushed back against it strongly, and even went to the point where he stood up with these militia groups, the Pro Boys and Keepers, and all these militia groups who were also against Black Lives Matter. And then again, he held to the ideology that of the patriarchy or the manosphere, where it's men who should have the right and freedom to do as they please, and nothing that they do is bad, as he always sees. His argument every time he gets into trouble is that he didn't do anything wrong. So he was against the Me Too movement, where females came out and made public that they were violated in different ways, physically and sexually and verbally, emotionally. So we see that pushback from MAGA in that time period, during his first administration. And then now in this administration, since he became president in January of this year, but voted in last year, November last year, we see again this MAGA movement, and now their push is against those who they claim to be woke. right? And also against DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they don't like the idea of being woke, and I look up that word, and it has become a term. And so the Oxford Dictionary defines it as being alert to racial or social discrimination and injustice. So anyone who is woke is alert to racial and social discrimination and injustice. Is that good or bad? We know in this movement that's good, right? Also, it's conscious awareness of universal equality among race and gender. Okay, so so because he's anti-woke, then we know that, and we know that woke by these definitions is has the favor of God, right? And so being anti-woke would be being anti-Christ. Right? So again, we could see that this MAGA movement is a very evil dragon power. So the opposite of being woke is anti-woke, and that has to do with societies intentionally being beguiled and deceived by this disinformation, by misinformation, and by conspiracy theories and the manosphere. Right? So we know that that is not good. That is what is creating this environment of of um of another. Okay.
Who's
Yes. Go ahead.
just as you were speaking, I mean, that spirit of Antichrist, right? You know,
Right.
if you're against woke, you're against Christ, you're against God.
Against God. Yep. And so it's mind-boggling, you know. Yeah. I don't know how to say, but it's strange how people could American people, because all happening in America, and we know from military studies, the world is being agitated during this National Sunday Law. So it's all happening in America, and then the worldwide Sunday Law will see more of it. But you know, Americans living in America, professing to be Christians, and saying that they're doing things to please God, or doing what they're doing in order to bring about um, justice and to gain God's favor and blessing. But yet, they are doing these things, and they or Donald Trump is doing these things, and they don't see anything wrong with it. Instead, they defend him, and they support him, and they say that he's doing good for the nation. So it just shows us how, praise God, our eyes have been opened. Lord has provided the eyesight for us to see what's happening. But there are so many people who have already been deceived to the point of no return. Of course, we know that there are Ethnims out there who are are putting things on the balance and weighing out what is occurring, and by the grace of God will turn and escape, as Daniel 11:1 says, they will escape in due time. Okay, so so that's what we're seeing today in this new administration, and this is why I'm convinced that Elder Terry's study is the one that really proves all of this, that it connects, you know, you can trace it all the way from 1798 all the way to this time. We can see where this dragon power has made effort to raise this ugly head and take control. But the Lord had the lamb like these in charge for a time. Okay, and this time has expired, and now we're in the seventh kingdom. And the reason for it is because, again, we know that the lamb like is failed. The institution that was to defend, that was designed to uphold and defend the people, end up failing. Okay, so there's a professor from Harvard University. He's a political philosopher. His name is Michael Sandel. He wrote a book. I haven't read the book, but I have listened to an interview with him. But this book is named "Democracy's Discontent," and in this study that he did, he has been able to explain to us how the Sixth Kingdom failed, right, and give room to the rise of the Seventh Kingdom. He hasn't put it in that language, but from our standpoint, studying as students of prophecy, we could understand what he's saying. So he entitled it "Democracy's Discontent," and he says that people feel that the reason why people turn to the MAGA movement and to this Make America First ideology was that people began to feel that they don't have a meaningful say in how they are governed. They feel that their voices doesn't matter. Okay, so that's how the discontent started. Yeah, also he said that people feel that for some time the moral fabric of society has been unraveling from family to the community to the nation. People hunger for a sense of belonging and pride, a sense of solidarity. So all of this says that from his study, he found out that this is what began to manifest. You know, people began to cherish these feelings of discontent that began to prevail in American society. These are the two deep sources of the discontent that the Trump campaign were able to tap into, connected with grievances of working people, those without university degrees who felt that the elites looked down upon them. All right, so that's what began to turn people's mind and hearts against the lamb like beast as they failed in doing their job. Okay, so these are the grievances. He went on to explain. For decades, Democrats and Republicans alike had carried out a neoliberal market-friendly globalization project and delivered enormous rewards to those at the top, but left the bottom half of the country basically with stagnant wages and outsourced jobs that created a widening economy and wealth between the elites and the working class citizens. The leaders in government told people to go to college and get a degree if they want to earn a substantial salary, to make good money. But if someone struggled in the rising new economy, and that person didn't get a degree, then their failure is their fault. So it's both the Republicans and the Democrats supporting this new economy. This caused working people to feel dispossessed and economically squeezed by the new economy, and also insulted and looked down upon by the dominating elites. The Democratic Party, so this is where the Democrats really turned for the worse. The Democratic Party evolved during the age of globalization to promote market triumphalism. All right, so the age of globalization that he's referring to is just after World War II. And he says that the Democratic Party, they began to promote this market of triumphalism. What is triumphalism? It's an attitude or feeling of victory or superiority, such as the attitude that one's religious creed is superior to all others, or boastful pride in the success or dominance of one's nation or ideology over others. So the Democrats began to shift over to this position where the Republican Party were and are. He went on, and also, beside market triumphalism, they also promoted meritocratic triumphalism. There was such emphasis on getting a college degree as the avenue to success and also to respect that by 2016, the Democratic Party had become more in tune to the values and interests and outlook of credentialed elites and professional classes than to the blue-collar voters who once constituted their primary base of support. So it was the Democrats who turned away their support by their own behavior and what they were promoting. Okay, and we know, I remember the Prime Minister brought this to our attention that through the course of the American history, the Democratic Party, there were more presidents from the Democratic Party who ruled than the Republicans. And yet they just blew it. They just gave up that position for this new promotion of new economy. Having a strong welfare state, a strong public education, housing, and healthcare provide the kind of stability and strength that enable people to rise. Presently, there has been a widening inequality and also stalled mobility. People find out that no matter how hard they work in the USA, they can't get ahead. So remember, these are the grievances that has been brewing and bubbling over. Economic and cultural grievances exist because of things like inflation, jobs, economic growth, distribution of income, and so forth. The system for allocating social recognition and esteem is gone. Democrats didn't focus on the dignity of work or on honor or respect or social esteem and recognition, but instead focused their emphasis on telling people to get a college degree, led to the cultural grievances that now is in an uproar. People not only felt left behind economically, but they also felt that they were being looked down upon. Donald Trump was able to recognize and tap into these grievances to win these two elections. Democracy requires a sense of of commonality in society, a sense consistent and regular encounter of people from different walks of life. All right, so that's what he explained was the cause of this overturn and what we know now to be the dragon power ruling. Okay, so Donald Trump was able to ride this wave, right, of discontent of people of the American nation, American people discontent and grievances, claiming that he would bring better, right? That he would improve the economy and improve improve the society and improve the well-being of people or improve the country on a whole and the economy, the prosperity of American economy, and also to make America great again, as you say. But again, the nature of the seventh head, dragon power, is not able to do so. So I don't know Donald Trump's heart or those in his cabinet or his administration. I don't know. We see them as being devious, diabolical, but maybe sincerely they feel like their ideology is best for the nation, but looking at it from a prophetical standpoint, what we are finding out is that again, since 1798, since the dragon, or let me go back to the Fifth Kingdom. Yeah, remember the papers in the Fifth Kingdom, and the Premier did, he did a wonderful study to show us how the dragon power existed during the time of the 1260. But then the Lottery went on to explain that when this Fifth Kingdom came to its end, after the deadly wound, this dragon power didn't just cease to exist, it followed the church, God's people, into the new world or on land from sea to land, and seek from then on it seek to reestablish itself. So, so what we see is that this dragon power has always brought about chaos and destruction and death and just a whole lot of problems. And we saw that in the French Revolution, right? At the end, we saw that Provost of France, at the beginning of 1538, he was the first to move, or France was the first nation to support the papacy. But by the time it came to its end, the chaos that this dragon power brought about because of the inequality and the social injustice and everything that is not good, it brought about a time it brought about a terrible period during the French Revolution where many people got killed. It brought about the reign of terror. Okay, so now we see that since 1989, again now with Ronald Reagan being George Bush, precisely, but Ronald Reagan had a play to do it, had a part in it. From then on, we see this seventh head begin to rise, began to to gain traction, and we just understood why. According to this political philosopher at Harvard University, it was because from since World War II, remember that America and the Soviet Union, they went into a Cold War, and they began to compete economically and arms and in every other way. They competed, and so the Democrats thought that it was good to lean on that side where they promoted financial success and higher education, and everybody else who cannot meet the standard are looked down upon and considered lower class. And this began to affect them. This created this affection, and it also gave impetus to this Soviet kingdom that since 1989, since the fall of the Soviet Union, and we know also that around this time was when George Bush Sr. introduced his interpretation of a new world order, and he wanted to establish it then and there, but God did not allow. But we see from then on, we see this German power establishing itself. Okay, and so my observation from this little study is that comparing, because we know that France is able, we can compare France and USA because France is a two-horn power and USA is a power. From Bible prophecy, France is Sodom and Egypt. The two-horn of USA is republicanism and Protestantism. So from that, we could be able to compare. And so we can see that around this time when we're in this Sunderland time period, we need to expect what happened in the French Revolution to repeat. Okay, because that's just what German power produces. It doesn't bring any good. Okay, and so that's why I took time to look into the study, and I found that very helpful. Another thing that another observation we can make also is that the papacy was given 1260 years to rule as that dragon power. But remember, God says that he will cut the work short in righteousness. So this seventh kingdom ruling in the USA that began its rise since 1989, and especially since 2021, it only has a short period. It will not last very long. So again, that also should awaken us, to pay attention more, to see how things are developing in America, and eventually that will spill over into the world. Okay, so how much time do I have, Debbie?
And actually, Lucas, I was just getting ready to open the mic to let you know you have 10 minutes left. I mean, wrapping up now is probably wise.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so I'm going to close here because next I wanted to get into the French Revolution, into the history of it. I wanted to I was able to look up 7 causes that brought about the French Revolution. And so I will have to leave it for another time. It's kind of lengthy. It's in detail, but it's seven causes that brought about French Revolution, and let me just give you an insight into it. The first one is economic crisis, and you can see if that is happening in America right now. The second one is a state system and social inequalities. That's the second cause. The third cause is Enlightenment ideas. Remember around that time, the time of the Enlightenment. And the fourth one is urbanization and information spread. The fifth, the American Revolution that occurred prior to this French Revolution, and that France was deeply involved with eventually. The sixth, absolutism, extravagance, and mismanagement. Again, we see that happening a lot right now, especially with Elon Musk being given free rein to do as he pleases. And the seventh would be popular unrest. Okay, so I will leave this for another study. And so we see that under this Trump's new administration, the second administration, it's referred to as Trump 2.0. Democracy is in decline. When different parts of government use armed forces against another government department, we know that there's a problem. And this is something that happened just recently since Trump was sworn into office. There's a agency called the U.S. Africa Development Foundation. It was raided by Doge, and when they were denied entry because it's a private institution, even though it has to do with government work, it's private. The young man that works for Elon Musk, they went and they were given support by the U.S. Marshal to come back and raid the agency. Another example of this is the U.S. Institute of Peace. This is another agency. What they do, they work on research in conflict zones and training future diplomats. It was created by Congress during the Reagan administration in 1984. This is a nonpartisan and independent organization. And again, members of Doge arrived unannounced. And this time, they didn't brought the US Marshal, they brought the FBI. And on March 15, 2025, the management of this agency, they called DC police to help them to resist Doge. But instead, DC police ended up siding with the invaders. And they use armed force to break into these agencies. Also, we see happening is free speech suppression. Donald Trump promised that he would bring about an era of free speech, but it's the opposite taking place. He threatens all federal funding for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. And what does he consider to be illegal protest? He claims it to be pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activities. So again, now as we saw just recently, a couple of days ago, a young lady from a particular university was practically kidnapped in broad daylight. by ICE, by agents of ICE, who are en masse and no identification. They just kidnapped her and took her away. And before that, there was another university student named Mahmoud Khalil, who also was detained. And both of them are being held, I believe, in Louisiana, without much information given about them being arrested. All that they claim is that they were involved in illegal protests. They were supporting Hamas and so forth. So all these things are bad signs. Another thing that we see happening is mass deportation mishandling. And now under the Alien Enemies Act, we see that even people who were in the process of getting their papers, their legal papers to become American citizens, were swept up. And now they are in El Salvador. And according to those who understand the process, they say these people at least spent 2 years in prison over there before they could even make a case for themselves to be released. And then we know about the Social Security scandal, where now the elderly, they will have a very difficult time to claim their benefits. And again, a whole number of people being fired for no reason at all. And then also you have private equity and financial firms buying over institutions, elderly homes, and even farms, where people are being forced to sell out because, again, the economy is going down. The stock market keeps falling, inflation keeps rising, and the whole economy right now in the USA is very unstable. Another thing that you should look into is someone who is involved. I listen to him a lot. He is involved in the oil industry. I think he has a major share in there, so he understands what is taking place, and he is informing people that things are really bad in the U.S. Prices of fuel will skyrocket very soon because of what Donald Trump is doing with this tariff war that he's creating. And also, he recently warned that natural gas and oil prices will go up, and American people should expect it to be in effect by next year. And the purpose of it is because global exports are taking over domestic demand. These companies are all private companies that produce natural gas and oil. And because Donald Trump is favoring them and doing everything that he has power to do to make these companies more wealthy and more profitable, what they're doing, they're exporting more than what they are producing for the domestic population. So it will cause an imbalance, and they don't really care because all they care about is profit. Okay, so these are some of the things that we see taking place that will not end up good. As Elor Tabo commented in the recent study by Elor Terry, that the experts who understand the economy and the stability of the economy, they already predicted it's unsustainable. All right. And again, from what we know, repeat of history and from the prophetic narrative that America will come to its end and no one shall help. All right. So I want to close right here. And hopefully another time we can pick up this study. So let's close with a word of prayer as we bring the study to an end. Loving God, we thank you that you're so caring and so loving, so mindful of us, that you have shown us and provided a way of escape, not physically, but spiritually and mentally. You have shown us that your kingdom is there for us to take refuge. Thank you for this movement, and we thank you for the light, all these studies that have come about. Thank you for elders, especially Terry and Arminder and everybody involved, and all the teachers taking taking the active role in making us understand what's happening better. Lord, we just thank you for all that. We ask that our group as well to be awakened and remain awake, that we may be able to see our way through this time of trouble. So bless us now, and thank you again for this time we're able to study. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, so thank you for your time, and now I need to work to Debbie.
Well, and thank you, Lucas, so very much with your study. Boy, covered a lot of review and a lot of good, refreshing of our minds. And as you were talking, I was, different things were coming to mind, and so thank you very, very much. We'll look forward to your follow-up study on the French Revolution. And just all these things tying together, right? And understanding deepens, just the more we review and the more we access what's happening externally, but also internally, and just connect all the dots, right? So thank you very much. And oh yes.